You're watching The Big Picture on News.Markets. Google's announcement that it's taken on a conglomerate structure under new brand name Alphabet was a bombshell, but the markets liked it, boosting Google's value by $20 million. Alphabet, Google's new parent company, will make the tech giant's activities cleaner and more accountable, so says Chief Executive Larry Page. But what are the risks to brand and reputation when big-name companies change their often household names? Peter Walsh, Director of Global Brands, joins me now. Thanks for coming in. Now, don't worry, we're still getting used to the name too. That's what Larry Page says. Have Google got it right with Alphabet?
I think they've got it very right indeed, because Google is so synonymous with search, the ads, all of that sort of stuff that we're, as consumers, have, that it sort of hidebounds the overall innovative greater company. And so rather than dissipating the Google brand itself, in fact keeping it focused and strong, putting it into a conglomerate structure is a very, very smart move, both for the staff who work there in various different companies, as well as for investors.
So if you're comparing it to other companies who have a similar structure, some analysts are saying, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, or are we looking at something like LVMH?
Yes, indeed. I think those are true conglomerates with very different sets of products, and the brands within them are completely separated from the ownership. In fact, most of the people probably using those brands have no idea who owns them. And that's a good thing, because it means that one brand doesn't contaminate another. It means that from an investor perspective, it's very easy to sell and get best value for the particular brand or a service in its own right. And that's a great advantage. And that was the problem with Google. If everything was tarred by Google or haloed by Google, it would affect some of those transactions.
What about the name, though, Alphabet? Of course, you can't but notice it begins with an A, like Apple, like Amazon, like Alibaba.
Well, obviously, A is definitely best. I think from the point of view of Google, which is number 2 in our global Brandsy Top 100 rankings to Apple, at least now Alphabet is one step in the alphabet above Apple.
But in terms of comparing with those kind of companies, what are they doing that's different, that's right? Are they diversifying or refocusing?
It's very interesting. Google is going in exactly the opposite direction from Apple and Amazon, for example. And in fact, our research shows that the Amazon brand over the last 10 years has weakened. I mean, it's still very strong indeed, but because of all of the different products and services that have been added in there, it's become more disparate in consumers' heads, and so not that strong, such a strong focus brand that it was.
And investors like a bit of focus. Let's take a look at some other companies that have repositioned themselves to varying degrees of success. Who would you pick out?
Well, I would say, I think there are 3 reasons for rebranding or changing those sorts of things. Obviously, one is if you've got a problem child or an embarrassing parent. So, it's very interesting when you look at HSBC probably going to rebrand its retail banking in the UK, perhaps to Midland Bank. And this means that it'll become more meaningful to the constituency and divorced from all of those terrible things that seem to have happened.
All that banking baggage.
Exactly. And so that's a good reason for rebranding. You've got also expansion as your markets get bigger, as you go into a bigger region. Look at lovely old Norwich Union insurance company, very warm, very successful.
And then you think of companies like Kentucky Fried Chicken, which everyone was already calling KFC, but that helps it with its global expansion plans, isn't it?
Well, it does. OK, Colonel Sanders is still there on the logo and so on, but it isn't just a parochial US brand, not that it was that for many years from now, but it's so much easier to say if you're in Korea or China or some of these massive growing markets for fast food. KFC is a lot easier.
So rebranding will make more sense for consumers, but it can also give investors more clarity if a company is refocusing in particular activities. Peter Walsh, thanks ever so much for joining us.